January 6th, first. And as advised on August 28, 2012, adequate notice of this meeting pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act has been furnished by inclusion thereof in the annual schedule of meetings for 2012, which has been posted on the bulletin board at Borough Hall, filed with the Borough Clerk, faxed to the Hour Town, the Record, and the Community News and the County Seed newspapers, distributed to all persons, if any, requesting copies of same pursuant to said act. In case of emergency or fire alarm, you must evacuate the building by using either of the exit doors in the room. They're immediately to my right, and the double doors at the rear of the room. Occupants must exit the building by using the staircase and not the elevator. This meeting is being recorded by both video and audio and may be rebroadcast.
Everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. Mayor Padavano.
Here.
Council members. Savage.
Here.
Fleischman will be late. Oriana has called. She's at work. Doesn't know if she'll be able to make it. Debray.
Here.
Ballerini.
Here.
Neglio.
Here.
Borough Attorney Ronald Dario.
Here.
Borough Clerk Jean Pellegra is here. Borough Administrator Roberta Stern.
Here.
Thank you.
Our office issued an engineer's report which was dated September 7th for tonight's meeting. The first item on the list is the DEP Economic Recovery Program project. As it relates to the Magnolia Avenue sewer, that sewer project has occurred where the pipe has been installed within the roadway. PSE&G actually undertook a facility maintenance program with respect to their gas mains within the roadway. So subsequent to those improvements occurring by PSE&G, that roadway will be restored accordingly, but the sewer has been installed and that has been completed. As it relates to the Lincoln and Mendez portion of the project of site restoration, the restoration as it relates to the roadway patching for the drainage improvements did occur within the past few weeks. That portion has been addressed other than some minor touch-ups in the area. The Brook Avenue siphon and the chamber installation, that is going to occur within the next 2 weeks, which is at the exact same time when the restoration of the Magnolia Avenue sewer trenching would occur. Last week we met with the borough attorney as it relates to the Spring Valley Road pump station. In particular, we met with the two property owners where the easements would be requested, walk them through the project and what would occur on each of the individual lots to construct the gravity sewer and take the pump station out of service. I would leave the attorney to discuss it further, but it seemed like the meeting, they were very amenable to the permission of the easements on those properties. As it relates to the second project listed...
Could I ask a question on project number one?
Definitely.
With regard to the acquisition process, you had a very good meeting.
Correct.
You have a timeline. We expect that this will be quiet, and I'm looking to get some type of schedule.
It sounded, based upon the meeting, that the project would appear to be a spring 2013 project with the acquisitions of the easements occurring shortly, and then the bidding of the project, which would take approximately a month. So you'd be looking at a few-month time frame to solidify those easements and then bid the project.
Okay, thank you.
The second project on our list is the solar power project. The kiosk actually was repaired and addressed within the past week, so I believe this project now is going to be closed out accordingly. So we've reached...
No, except for tonight, somebody touched it again and I can't get back. But other than that, it's working fine. We have to put a sign up, under threat of imprisonment. Please do not touch this kiosk. It's locked into the enlighten end phase, but apparently, which I noticed tonight, somebody has been playing with it, and they get off of the screen that shows how many trees are saved, how much energy is produced. I've had them here during the week to show me how to get back on. Something different happened, so they may have to come back again. But ultimately, it's been addressed. I mean, just people seem to not be able to keep their hands off of it for some reason. It's attractive. Sorry, Greg.
No problem at all. The next project on the list is the Spring Valley Road project. Pre-construction meeting was held at Borough Hall on September 5th. We confirmed with the contractor, pending weather conditions, that the project would begin October 1st, 2012. For the contract documents, they have 30 working days to complete from that date, so this project will be completed approximately early November, as stipulated within our prime notes.
I'm sorry.
Sure.
We can't have any cell phone use, I'm sorry.
No problem. So,
I thought it was my stomach.
So it's a October 1st start date, 30 working day period. Project completion would be in the beginning of November. The Borough Hall monitoring.
Right, I'm sorry.
Sure.
Just on number 3.
Most definitely.
What kind of notification was sent out to the residents in the area there? I understand from the police they've been getting some calls about the pending work that's being done there.
None has been submitted as of yet to any of the residents. As we move closer to the start date, a notification we've requested as part of the pre-construction meeting is to be forwarded to our office for review. We will also forward it to the borough for review and input as it relates to it, and then they will be required to distribute those to each of the individual homeowners along the roadway improvement paths to ensure that they're notified accordingly of what to expect.
Well, I think just my concern is just around the 30-day time frame. It's
Sure.
a long time to have, that kind of disruption on what's a major road in town. And I'm curious about not only the residents, but what about the schools?
Schools have actually sent the notification out already.
Right.
To advise parents of using different routes to get to school.
Yeah, I know that was actually initiated by the police department, because they had gotten a memo from Neglius.
Well, no, they were at the pre-construction meeting, actually, so. And then also, we have prepared a statement, because I did hear from the police department, we've prepared a statement for them so they can explain it, because there was some misconception about it. And
I think it's just, my understanding of it was that there was just other than there be 30 working days on the road, there was no description to the police department where the work was going to be occurring,
Well,
what kind of work was going to be done, was the street going to be torn up? Was there
as I said, the police department was represented at our pre-construction meeting, and there were some doubts. Greg and I put together a statement which will be presented to them, but, we were a couple of weeks away, so we still have some time.
Great, thanks.
And when you're talking 30 days, it's not the roadway will be open to 30 working
Right.
days. The first step of the project would be to replace those ADA ramps, which is just the minor intersection improvements, and then you would have approximately a week time frame where you would have the milling and then the paving of the roadway,
I
so.
understand what the concern is, right?
Yeah.
Right.
The memo that gets out is 30 days of work being done on Spring Valley Road, not much more explanation than that.
Well,
Understand,
unfortunately,
Councilman, understand.
that should not have been given out, because that wasn't, the contractor took the window that he has by contract, which is not to say that it will take him the 30 days. He chose to, and there was for some reason, inadvertently, that was given out as part of the...
It's in documents that we review here at these meetings every month, so it's not like it was a secret that...
Oh, no, it's not a secret, it's just misinterpreted.
When the calls are made and questions are asked, there were no answers available.
No, I understand. We'll make sure that the residents are kept abreast of what's going to occur.
Thanks.
Any other questions? The project number 4 within our list is the Borough Hall monitoring program. Our office actually had visited Borough Hall this past Monday, performed our analysis and looked at the points within the Borough Hall, the exact same locations previously. The points at the police desk or at the police entrance do not exhibit any sort of settlement any further. All the points are within tolerance as it relates to it. There were 2 locations now within the firehouse, one of the bays, which actually exhibited some changing in elevations, and they weren't within the tolerances. So for that reason, we're going to continue to monitor the process. We would look at, again, beginning of December review date. Again, though, we would reiterate that the borough should have the structural engineer take a look at, for this building, take a look at what has occurred and to see if any of their design has been compromised as it relates to the settling.
I think, excuse me, there was a question when you were in your report, if you referred to the former structural engineer, are you talking about the original one or the one who was called in, from my understanding, just within the last few years to take a look at two different people?
Well, it could be either. I mean, it would just need to be an expert. We
Okay.
just recommended the building structural engineer that had designed the component, just since they would have intimate knowledge of what they
Okay.
proposed and what was constructed.
This is just procedural.
Sure.
okay? You're the engineer.
Mhm.
Don't you feel free, with your responsibilities as the borough engineer,
Mhm.
to pick up the phone and talk to the other structural engineers?
I
mean,
yeah, no.
You're requesting the borough to do, we are the borough.
Mhm.
And I'm saying you're the
Yeah,
engineer.
I'd be glad to do so if the contact was forwarded. I'd be glad to call.
Well, that's just communication. You
Understand.
don't wanna- Who are they, and call them.
Understand.
That's my take.
Understand, Councilman.
Excuse me, I know that they were here, I did notice that they were here. Greg and I talked about it a little bit, and we just haven't decided who we're going with.
But I mean, this has been on here for 3 months.
Yeah,
Well, this is just the most recent
Yeah,
one that we
okay,
did.
but I'm just trying to make a point. You are the engineer.
Yeah.
Right.
You,
We just want to ensure that we notify the correct
yeah, well, that's
consultant.
understandable, but we're the governing body, handle it with, who you have to handle it.
Understand, Councilman.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. The final project on our list is the DOT municipal aid grant project. The grants are due October 16th. We would just look for some direction as it relates to what roadway the municipality would like us to submit if they choose to submit a grant application package.
Do you have a recommendation?
Well, I think we had previously applied for East Hunter, and I think
Yes.
everybody was in agreement
Yeah.
to pursue that, since that didn't come through in this last half. Unless anybody has an objection, we can move forward at the next meeting with a resolution on East Hunter again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure, we'd be glad to do that. And that would conclude my report. I'd be glad to address any other questions that the council and mayor had.
Any questions for the engineer?
Nothing further from me.
Thank you.
Ordinance 912, an ordinance amending the Borough of Maywood Municipal Code so as to revise Chapter 269 of the Code of the Borough of Maywood governing the Maywood sewer system.
Any comments on this? Any comments on this matter? Okay.
Move for adoption.
Second. Roll call.
Savage.
Yes.
Fleischman.
Yes.
Oriema. Sedray.
Yes.
Ballerini.
Yes.
Maglio.
Yes.
Be it resolved by the Mayor and Council of the Borough of Maywood that ordinance 912 be and is passed upon second and final reading, and the Borough Clerk is hereby authorized and directed to advertise the same according to law.
Correspondence. What is correspondence?
Okay. You'll see in your mail that I had put a request from the fire police. They'll be going on a trip and requested to use the Memorial School parking lot. If we could place that on the agenda for approval for next week.
What's the date on it?
13.
13th of October, which is a Saturday.
Okay.
Anybody have an objection to putting it on the agenda? Okay.
Also, there'll be the grant agreement we received from Community Development on the handicap accessible pool lift. If we could have that, that would have to be put on the
Next week's agenda.
Next week as well, in order to get it back within the time frame required. The November meetings, I don't know if somebody else wants to talk about that, in their report, the rescheduling of the November meetings with the required meeting that's supposed to be on the 8th for our, that will be changing from the 8th to the 27th instead of the 13th to the 27th.
Okay, we're having a special meeting on the 8th.
Right.
For the bond ordinance.
So we thought that we would do everything on the 8th as opposed to having another meeting 5 days later.
Does anybody have an objection to eliminating the 13th work session and using the 8th as full meeting?
I have no objection.
No.
So then we'll do the appropriate changes there.
Yep. Noticed.
And that's all I have, thank you.
Madam Clerk, could I ask you just one question? You got this as well, the American Legion Post request, that's an annual, perennial?
Yes, sir.
Anybody have an objection? I believe the borough has contributed $100.
We've done the gold page in the
Uh,
Okay. No, I have no objection.
Contribution to their fundraiser. Does anybody have an objection?
I didn't get that.
All right, so I'll process that.
Borough Administrator.
Excuse me, Mayor, just a couple of things. I've been receiving quotes for improving the parking lot that we're discussing at the Memorial School on Fairmont. I have 2 quotes in now. I'm waiting for a third. It's my understanding that we will be sharing that cost with the Board of Education. In my discussions, in my discussions with them, so I'm just waiting for the third quote. And we also have a proposal from Neglia with regard to the sidewalk program, various locations within Maywood, that I'd like to put on for the next meeting so that we can prepare bid specs and be able to offer residents a reduced price for repairing the sidewalks in front of their home. We have a list of sidewalk slabs that need to be replaced from the DPW. We'll start with that, and plus that there are 10 or 20 others that we've become aware of. And by doing this, we will allow residents to take advantage of a much cheaper price. We've gotten quotes from certain contractors, and the prices were ridiculous. And, you know, we felt that by doing it this way, we'll be able to offer the residents a fairer price for repairing the sidewalks in front of their home, which by ordinance they are responsible for repairing when there's some issue. So I'd like to perhaps put that on for the next meeting. And
Anybody have an objection?
We've done this before, Mr. Mayor. I can't tell you the time frame, but it has been done before, and it was a success.
Yeah, no, it's a good program with
Yeah.
able town
Yeah.
residents to take advantage of it.
Exactly.
Bargaining, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
Just basically, there nothing specific with the pool, but the pool is closed, as you all know. We had a very successful season, and I think at the next meeting, or perhaps the first meeting in October, Councilman Fleischman and I will have, excuse me, a report as to the numbers with the pool, but it was in fact a successful season. The concession stand actually showed a small profit as opposed to a loss, and I think people were generally happy with it, which the councilman can address. And that's it. I have nothing else.
Borough Attorney.
Got a somewhat lengthy report to give it closed. My apologies.
All right. Too bad. Committee reports. Mr. Savage.
I have nothing of a policy matter to discuss this evening, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Mr. Fleischman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My apologies for being late this evening. And just to reiterate what the administrator stated, we did speak today about the swim pool and the success that the pool shared this year, as well as the swim team. We discussed that, and they were all here at the last meeting. We'll go over the numbers. Anything glaring or major to report, we will. Also, the administrator is working with the CFO on a list of improvements for the pool, and to have those added to the swim pool budget for next year, so we can actually do more improvements than we've done this year. Some particulars, redoing the locker rooms, tile, drainage, things like that, that we can get into the pool budget. And just a reminder to everyone that the pool is self-sufficient. It's not taxpayer dollars that operate the pool. And the pool did very well this year, and we were able to make a lot of improvements. So thank you, Administrator, for that. Also, with some colleagues and neighbors, this was an issue that we had discussed several years ago, but it never came to fruition. The residents in the Gulf area section of Maywood have been requesting a stop sign near Romaine Avenue, either by Hartwich or Romaine. We have a petition, or I worked on a petition with some of my colleagues. We have about 38 names on the petition. It is kind of a speedway, and especially during school time now. A lot of children crossing from the local neighborhoods there. So I'd like to submit that to the police chief for a study and have the council take some direction on that at a future meeting. It is an issue we had discussed maybe a couple years ago, if I remember correctly, and we just never proceeded to amend the ordinance or look at that. And I think it's something that's very important to the residents of that neighborhood.
I've actually had a conversation with the chief. I think Councilman Bellerini and I met with the chief a couple weeks ago and talked about a bunch of things, that one of which was potentially a sign at Elm Street, South Elm, I guess, to stop people from through traffic because they're having cut through. And another one was that exact issue of a stop sign on Gulf to slow down people, because that's another major cut-through road. Romaine, I think, is the street that lines up perfectly on the east and west side, as opposed to some of the other streets that don't line up exactly. And that may be the location, pending the traffic patrol's review, that makes the most sense for a four-way stop sign. So, it's good.
Refresh my memory, yeah.
Councilman Savage, get out of his block.
Yeah, well, it's never been a problem. I'm serious to me, okay, so, but that doesn't mean it's not a problem, okay? It was reviewed, I'm going to say 4 or 5 years ago, we had the same discussion.
Probably a little longer.
Yeah, Lorraine, maybe Lawrence, it goes back a while. But didn't the chief at that time review it, and he recommended that we not do it, if I recall?
Well, one of the sections over there, especially East Magnolia, between Gulf and the Esplanade, one of the studies at the time was speeding on that street, and the volume of cars on that street, and at the same time, I believe the issue of Gulf and Romaine came up more than one occasion, and there were other topics thrown out, maybe a speed bump, maybe a ramp, temporary speed bumps, whatever, to slow the traffic down. But then we had other issues, snow plowing, all those kind of things. So I know there was a lot of discussion. I don't think we ever came to some kind of resolve, or there was a definitive report from the traffic division to say, hey, it's not
I seem to
feasible, it's not
recall
feasible.
there was the clerk seems to be reinforcing my recall, and that there wasn't some, and this should be in the files. I mean,
Well, yeah, if
and
there's
review
something
it
from
again,
the chief
that's
or...
not, whatever the decision was then, I'm not, take another look at it.
Yeah, and if there's documentation that they studied the issue and it's not feasible, that's fine.
Yeah,
We can put it to rest finally, but, people continue to talk about it. There's a lot of new children in the area.
It is a major cut-through.
It is.
It's a major cut-through.
When State Street gets jammed up, people make that
Oh,
quick
no
left
question.
onto Gulf and fly down that street, so...
Also, as it happens, I think as time has passed on, the demographics of the street have changed, and there are more young children.
More younger children.
So it could have changed in 4 or 5 years with home sales.
So it's something we take a look at, and if
Take a look at it.
maybe with the chief and administrator, maybe see if, or clerk, if you have something in the files on that, that would...
Do you actually have a petition?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so that, we'll make a copy for the chief. Any petition should be on file in the clerk's office.
Absolutely.
In case anybody wants to know. All right.
And just one request of the mayor, if I may, tonight, in your closing remarks, if you ask for a moment of silence, I would hope that we can all remember 2 passings this week, Mr. Keeferly and Dr. Motti. Sadly, 2 very active, important members of the community that will be dearly missed. And we can all remember them this evening. That would be appreciated. Sure.
Tag on to that, I know his passing was before our last meeting, after our last meeting, but Herman.
And that is all, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Mr. Bellerini.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to follow up on the issue of the stop sign on Gulf Avenue, minor housekeeping issue. We've asked about the radar trailer that the town had received from the Bushel Park American Legion. Just want to let you know that's back in service. It was actually set up on Gulf Avenue right at the intersection that we're talking about to help deter some of the speeding issues. The only other Two items that I had. First off, was just a reminder to the community, we have the MPOA golf outing on Monday. The seats are still available. Please check the website or contact Detective Moran for information on that. And then on the action item list, we have our discussion on the DBA officers.
Regular. Thanks, Mayor. Council President, sorry.
Mr. Mayor, just nothing except I have something for the library closed, has been closed. And just like to thank all the volunteers, the police department, the children from Memorial School, the whole school, and the student council that came to the 9/11 service in the morning at Memorial Park, and then the night service that was done at the church that evening. And please, I know some of us were there, if you can just refresh my recollection of the young man's name,
Anthony?
Simon, he gave a speech. Tim Simon, right? Tony, I'm sorry. He gave a speech that was, I don't think there was too many dry eyes in the church. It's unbelievable. Very moving. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Just briefly, October 14th, at 12 p.m. to 5 p.m., it will be a Maywood Fall Festival in the Memorial Park. We'll be having pumpkins, hayride, slides, food from local vendors. Local businesses will be setting up their tables. Come out and support local businesses and join in the fun. There will also be, the Historical Committee will be running bus tours from the park that day at 12:30, 2 o'clock, and 3:30. If you haven't ever been on one of the bus tours that Betty Fetzer puts on, it's a pretty good history lesson of the town. It's about an hour-long drive throughout the town. So that will be also provided on that day. So hopefully we're going to have a fun, good day with that. On that same day, there's a 5K being organized in support of the Maywood Hawks. As council will remember, we authorized that a few months ago. There are flyers now throughout the town, uptown in the stores, and get more information about that. It's going to be going on in the morning from Memorial School and returning to Memorial School. Community Bank is also holding a shred day on October 20th from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. in their parking lot. Those are usually pretty good events, and also the borough gets credit for the tonnage that is collected that day. So go out and support that. And then I think that's pretty much all I have. Community Garden's moving along. We're going shopping for the materials and should be constructing at the end of the month. That's all I have. This time, we can open it to the public. Anybody from the public wants to speak?
Derek Eisenberg, 121 Bell Avenue.
That time, Derek. There should be a switch on the bottom.
Hello? Yeah. Just with regards to the stop sign, last month, just by coincidence, one of my lender clients issued me an appraisal on Gulf Avenue. It was at that time that I went to the house that the resident had a young child, next door neighbor had a young child, and I became aware of the problem that was over there. It was because of that that I went and got the petition that Eric has presented to you. I personally walked up the street. I have about 30 so signatures on there. All of those people want that stop sign. They want that stop sign immediately. So I would just urge the council not to delay.
Thank you. We'll follow up with the chief again. Anybody else?
Hey, Frank Maroney, 15 Washington Avenue. I just want to give you a little feedback about West Magnolia as far as traffic is concerned there, because I lived on that street. Some of the issues is a lot of the private ambulances that could come down that street are very confused because the address at the bottom of the street for the center is 100, but 100 falls in the middle of the block. So they stop halfway down the block in the middle of the street looking, and while they're looking, cars are zipping around them because they want to get around. And in the meantime, these guys don't know where they're going. So that really exasperates the situation. And one other place that you might want to think about at least putting some kind of a sign in the middle of the street is on Maywood Avenue by Fairmount, because when there's no crossing guard there, even though there's lines painted on the street, no one ever stops for the kids there. And it'd be nice just to have something there that says, you know,
We had some
pedestrian.
crosswalk signs, I think, a little while ago, one down there, got taken out.
Taken out by a car?
Yeah, but it's
But it would
not,
be
not,
nice.
it's not put back.
It would be nice right there, because the kids cross from Memorial School from one side of the town to the other when the crossing guard's not there. They wait for forever. I mean, when I'm crossing that way, I stop, but traffic on the opposite side doesn't stop. So, anyway, that's it. Thanks.
And as for West Magnolia, actually, the borough administrator, about a month ago, was talking to the center so that their private ambulance services can redirect it as they were initially when they were.
Come out.
To come down Central, you come in over Hergesell, and we're going to start enforcing that. So
Yeah, I guess because you're getting new people and they're using GPS or what have you, they're coming down there.
Get there, and
Right.
that's exactly what I'm trying. Anybody else?
Can I speak from here?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay.
Give your address.
Mayor Padovano, members of the council, I'm Joe Steiner. I live at 40 Stelling Avenue, right here in the borough of Maywood. And I would like to present the borough with the sign in back of me. We proudly support our armed forces, which came from the Rutland, Vermont American Legion Post 31. I think it's very important right now with all the events going on with the world that we stand behind the freedom which we enjoy today. And secondly, I would like to express my condolences. I only found out about it after the fact. Councilman Eric Fleischman on the loss of his mother. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Mayor, excuse me, in the same keeping for POW MIA Day, I'm suggesting that we, will lower our flags to half-staff. I believe it's the 21st. 21st, yeah.
Anyone else? All right, close to the public. Resignations. Appointments. We, at this time, go to the action list on the last page. Okay, first one up is the fee ordinance. I think the borough administrator has received all the comments back from the pool regarding commission, or committee rather.
Yes.
Regarding their comments, so I think we're at a point where.
Ready to go, except
Should
for
be
one
good.
small item.
Yeah.
Like to make a change under recreation. There was just a little confusion about this and trying to clean it up. For the after-school summer program for non-residents, instead of $85, it'll be $100 per week. And I can't tell you what page, but it's one of the last items under recycling.
Third page in the back.
Madam Administrator, could I just, we've been through this a number of times. We have to number the pages.
Well,
It helps you, it helps everybody.
It does.
Yeah, I
The
mean, it's gonna
pages, this
get
was
you-
kind of a transformation
Yeah, okay.
from one
Well, we had the same problem, okay? I mean,
to
every
another.
time we deal with.
But in any event, I just so everybody knows, and I hope you all have looked at this has been reviewed and reviewed again. We think we've...
Ad nauseam.
Ad nauseam.
Ad nauseam.
I think that we have taken care of almost everything, and of course, we're all human, so that it's possible that things will be caught in the future. But as of tonight, I think this is as complete as it can be from all the different departments, except for that one item, again, that was just an oversight. So summer aftercare for non-residents is now $100 per week and not $85.
One thing I didn't see in here was the fee for using the fields. Is that in here? I wasn't able to find it.
Now, actually, that's probably the one thing that didn't get into here.
Okay, because we discussed it. And I think
We
came to
have
consensus.
discussed it, but I don't think we came up with the exact numbers.
I thought we had it. Okay.
No, so it
I
did
guess that
get...
could be amended?
Absolutely, and I mean, we have enough time between now and the spring, and just one thing that I guess we didn't have.
Between now and next week,
Yeah,
if you want.
still can do
an
it.
opportunity to look through it, just at leisure, and you see something that, I did.
It was kind of something that was discussed, and then we just never really finalized it. But again, we do have time between now and next week to add it, and certainly before the spring, it could be, amended for that one item.
A couple of points while we're on recreation. I know we had discussed some of this earlier today. The full summer club program, the summer club 8 weeks, we have non-resident is only $10 difference. I wonder if everybody would consider maybe doing that 125 or 110 or whatever. And the preschool summer club, raising that from 350 to 4. Because it seems like a lot of our programs are very inexpensive daycare for a lot of people. I think we really open ourselves up to hiring more and more people.
I think one of the concerns had been that the people who do join us for this are people from towns that we have other arrangements with, whether it be through recreation, MYAA, Rochelle Park, Maywood girls softball. And so since those towns are the ones, it's really not so much people who are further away, it's the same people from towns that are close by, whether it's Rochelle Park or others. So I think we try to take that into consideration. But as you notice on the non-resident weekly, which is the only way they can join, if they join for the entire time, it's $800 as opposed to $625. So there's a significant difference for the whole season. And that's why we didn't change that. But as far as the preschool for the summer, if anybody thinks that we should make that more than $50, I mean, there certainly are very fair prices, but we are dealing with towns that we are in a relationship with in many other ways in recreation, so I think that's why in discussion we decided not to be, much heavier-handed. But if the council, well, right, that was really, that was the consideration.
I know if also if the rec committee has made any kind of recommendations for any of these changes?
Unfortunately, there weren't enough people at Recreation Committee meetings to, right, so this was something that was done between the Recreation Director and myself. But that was the consideration. I'm certain.
It sounds reasonable. It really does.
One way or the other, I agree with you. We took it this way, particularly on the summer club for the 8 weeks, because then if they were to join for all 8 weeks, there was a significant difference. But, I mean, none of it is significant. It's a very nice program, but we're not dealing in an area where people have a lot of extra money to do this. It's really an accommodation for residents to be able to have this care for their children at a very reasonable cost compared to anything that's available privately.
It pays for itself.
It does pay for itself.
The only reason I brought up the fee is because if you bring in extra residents or non-residents, whatever, non-residents, let's go with that, and it puts you over the edge because you have to have so many counselors for so many kids. So now you get a non-resident pays $10 more a week, but we're putting on another staffer for $350 a week to watch that one extra kid for $15. So we want the camp to sustain itself and pay for itself, obviously, but you don't want to hurt yourself on
No, but I think that in this particular case, we have to go by an experience factor, and the experience factor right now is that there aren't that many non-resident kids attending. If, in fact, this coming year in 2013, we see that it has become, a preponderance of non-residents, then it would require for the following year changing it, or making some other arrangements, or frankly, we disband the program and say it's not available. I mean, say there were just so many people and we found that it's not self-sustaining, then we say, I'm sorry, we're not having it. But I don't think, again, based on an experience factor, this is reasonable.
One other item on here, if I may. Item K, street opening, sidewalks, and driveways. Go down to section 3C. The escrow required of public utilities.
Wait,
The borough has a fixed sum of $10,000. Seems to be that we've always had some issues in the past with utilities.
Right, remember, but 2 years ago we got that?
That's correct. I was wondering if there was a possibility if changing that, raising that would be a hindrance, or if that's something that we can address. There's been issues where, they show up on streets unannounced, don't take care of permits, don't take care of notifications. They dig up streets that we just freshly paved. Sometimes we had asked to attach their bond, and they threatened to hold the bond, and whatever. There's got to be maybe some other kind of deterrent or some other way we can have a little more handle on when and how things are dug up in town.
Are you addressing mostly from public utilities?
Yes, section 3C.
Yeah, I'm just wondering.
Utilities that are not exempt from
Right.
giving that to us. What we've done with the police department, the last time when we did this 2 years ago, the police department contacts the clerk, the administrator is notified, and the building department. So each road opening, everybody is aware of, and there hasn't been,
Well, I'll give you for instance.
Okay.
For instance,
Yeah.
There's been 7 events this year. On a Saturday afternoon, you have a subcontractor utility company come in and start drilling telephone poles in front of residential houses on a Saturday afternoon. Who notified them? There's no one here at Borough Hall, and it's a subcontractor from out of state. Who they're working for, who gave them the work order, that's a good question.
police call it, they leave a message.
Does that company have a bond? Are they responsible? And they dig up the sidewalk, dig up people's aprons, crack the curbs. We have no recourse. So, we need to have some kind of better control over how they do these things and how they schedule these things, and requiring all the utilities to put up a bond.
Can I ask a question?
I'm sure that we can.
On those days though when that occurs, shouldn't our local police be just stopping them? Telling them you can't do it unless you prove us you have a bond? Do you tell us?
They do.
They do, but-
Well, that's what I'm saying. The police could stop them and say you can't do anything until you have a bond, and the officer's supposed to Monday, see you.
Yeah, I think they do. I mean, they should be doing it.
And anytime a situation occurs on the weekend, but once again, public utilities, PSEG, some guy comes over and starts, drilling up sidewalks.
I think you're talking about someone who puts a gas main into the house on a Saturday, or you're
No,
talking about home
even
services coming by.
public utilities, there were a couple streets on a Saturday, no notification, people couldn't get out of the driveways, the road was blocked off, there was no, police officer present, and all of a sudden they're digging up the road and putting in a new gas main. Okay, I didn't know, did anybody get a memo on that? We made reference to...
And once again, the administrator is notified, as well as the police notified. The police department notifies us, the clerk's office, the building department's notified, as well as the administrator. That's the same.
Well, I just think it references back to the point Mr. Ballerini made earlier, that are the residents notified? So you can't even get down the street, get out of your driveway, all of a sudden...
Well, if it's an emergency, on
It's
a
routine.
Saturday or something.
On a brand-new paved road, I don't think that's,
Well, that happens all over. Unfortunately, it's not, it doesn't only happen here. I mean, we've had,
So the fee ordinance is the fee ordinance. I just make point of it that we can get some kind of better control over it if there's a way to raise the bond fee. So I don't know if that helps.
well,
or-
if they're doing it without coming to us, raising the bond fee doesn't mean
That doesn't
anything.
mean anything, but,
So it's another thing, and
somehow,
perhaps I can have a conversation with our borough engineer, and we'll come up with some other scenario for it.
Now, we're going to be paving Spring Valley. There's no reason why, after that road is closed, unless it's a dire major, after that road is paved, unless it's a dire emergency, no one should be changing a little curb box and digging up the road. So...
You want to put an under-over on that?
Yeah, if they're notified, great, but, how do we get a little handle?
You know what, unfortunately, I just don't think that's something that we can control. I mean, I don't...
I think we just make sure that the enforcement
Right, I mean, what's going on, but...
Since we put this in place, like I said 2 years ago, the police department has been quite diligent in letting us know.
Well, there was also another issue where we had a problem at Spring Valley and Spring Valley, and no one was taking responsibility for the broken gas main. We were going to attach the bond, and there was a whole big battle over that. You can't touch our bond, we're not paying for that, and that's the purpose of the bond. I know there's more involved in that, but there's somehow, some way, we need to try and get a better handle on it.
Well, I think maybe perhaps our borough attorney and the engineer could come up with a slightly different way of dealing with it, and then we just go from there. But public utilities seem to be the 800-pound gorilla in most of this, and...
Yeah, it's their wall, they make the rules.
And cable and Verizon are exempt from posting the bond, so we only have public service.
I suggest we talk with our assemblyman and our state senator and see if things can be handled at that level in terms of the entire state. This is not Maywood, it's all over.
It's everything.
You know, you get notices, we're going to increase the fees, and everybody gets excited, and that doesn't happen, okay? So the only way you can is if you get together with the other towns that you're in concert with and try to get something done through the assembly and through the utilities support those guys relative to the running, and it's been going on for 72 years that I've been on the face of the earth. So I don't know how, I'm just saying, there's reality and then there's...
Right,
I don't know what to
absolutely.
say.
Anything else on the fee ordinance? We ready to maybe put that on the agenda?
I'd like to.
All right, okay, fine.
I'm sorry, can we get that the one thing we just discussed, can we have that with the fields? Can we have that before it's on the agenda? Or
As long as, if numbers are given to the clerk and myself, we will get it on before Thursday. And then, no.
But that's all right, I mean,
Yeah.
we'll just go to the
And then we'll
minutes, to the Bible, and we will...
And the clerk can email everybody and just tell everybody what we're proposing or what's been proposed, and they could either say yes or no that they want it added, and we can put it on for next Thursday.
Just as a point of order, wouldn't that have to be a separate ordinance, and we've never had that before? It's not like we're adding it, I mean, spelling out, if you're going to just add it to the fee ordinance, field fee, doesn't it have to be explained, the rules, regulations, who it applies to? Or
No, it's just when people come in the spring to get their applications, this would be part of what's part of it. It doesn't need anything else.
I think she's right.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Number two, parking ordinances. I think we're still waiting for a clarification on that
Well,
one.
Mayor, if I could, on the one where there was some conversation with Patrolman Worrell on our traffic patrolman, that certain streets, that there was confusion between what we had suggested and what he suggested, and now we did get an email from New Jersey Transit that there is no intention to do any commuter lines on Spring Valley, so things that he was trying to address or preclude from happening will not be happening, so I think we can go back to the original list that Chief Pegg had given us, and we can move forward on that.
Mr. Mayor, I have a meeting with the chief tomorrow. I'll ask for confirmation on that for...
I did send him a copy of the email I received from John Leone at New Jersey Transit.
Okay. Any comments?
So to get those,
If we get
If it's clean.
the original one that we were going
Right.
to introduce
Exactly.
a month or so ago.
Mhm.
Child health care conference.
Okay, everybody received in their packets synopsis of what, speaking with Mary Park, the Board of Health Secretary, you wanted more information. She recalls an average not exceeding 8 children per year. It has the prices. Did everybody receive that, read that, or are there any questions on what you received? It is a mandatory requirement.
I thought we had discussed that pretty much during
Yeah, you just requested
you could put
more
something together
information.
and
Yeah.
We did, we had...
Well, that's the information you had asked for some history on it, what it would cost and so forth. And basically, the Board of Health recommends this Child Health Conference. We can just tell them they can move
The
forward.
administration supports that?
Mhm.
Okay. I have no objection.
I think the important thing was the numbers were not as significant as you thought they might
Yeah,
be.
right.
Okay, so we'll put that on the agenda.
It was just a
Everybody
matter
all right
of...
with the information that was provided, that was questioned?
Fine.
Yeah?
Senior Citizen Center rentals, we talked about this previously, about whether or not we wanted to maintain rentals at buildings open to the public. I have some discussion on that. Personally, I don't know that there's been a major problem with it up to now, and maybe it's something we monitor, continue to keep an eye on going forward, because there seems to be not that many public rentals going on.
There were a few that we had issues with. We increased the security deposit for non-residents, which is in the fee ordinance. Clerk and I are both comfortable with this, and I think that that's exactly right. I don't think we want to close it right now, particularly to residents, but if the, again, experience factor becomes such that it's detrimental to our, to a building that we own, then we would have to discontinue it.
I think there's some good organizations that are private organizations, not yet affiliated with the rec department, that are using it, one of those swear-in.
And who are good neighbors with us, quite frankly, and with the center.
I'm not so sure that there's a whole heck of a lot of other major usage going on there, but I think it is something that needs to be monitored so that we don't wind up with a damaged building.
Right.
We have to continue non-resident use.
Again, right now, what we did was increase the use fee and the security deposit for non-residents. If we choose to prohibit non-residents, that would be, up to the council.
And then we have the individual usage, which, we've had problems with obtaining the insurance. They have to put it against their homeowners, they get upset with that.
Well, they meet the regulations or they don't, okay?
Yes,
You know,
exactly right.
My point is, they meet the
Exactly right.
regulations or they don't. You upset
Yep.
them, that's why we're here, okay? I would take the administrator's recommendation relative to how to handle this with the clerk and move it forward. It's not, as the mayor indicates, it's not a big deal. We do have neighbors that we cooperate with, that we work with,
Right.
and I'll take your recommendation. And if we have trouble with homeowners, then they let them have the hot parties at their house, okay, as I do, and as most of us do, okay, that's it. Yeah, let them, get, come on. Let's not, that's I only have 3 more months left, so, I'm gonna let you know what I think. Okay? I'm not gonna let it all back there.
By the way, we're having his retirement party at the senior.
And he's gonna have to pay the deposit. That's the deal. Okay. I mean, we spent so much time on some of this stuff.
All right. Unless anybody has a problem, you can let that go.
Let it be.
All right.
The administrator's recommendation.
Parking lot space rentals. As everybody knows, there are numerous lots around the town that the municipality rents out spaces from, municipal-owned lots. One of those lots that falls under the ordinance right now is the public library. The public library is part of that program. However, we're not renting out spots. There are no designated spots in that parking lot, and perhaps that's something we should look to do. Understand that some residents around there are looking for spaces in that area, and may be able to provide them with an opportunity to a lot that's vacant.
Right.
And is currently on the books, under the ordinance, to be rented. So I would think that maybe the library liaison, when he has his meeting at the end of the month with the library trustees, we just have a conversation with them to let them know that it is on, remind them that it is on the books.
Well, I do have a copy of it, Councilman.
Yeah, if I get a copy of that, I'll
Yeah,
bring it up on
I have it
Wednesday.
in last month's folder, because I brought it to that.
The 19th.
We should probably actively add that back into the inventory, or at least advise the police
And
department
the
that it's
new
already-
part of the inventory would be whether or not, to alleviate some of the parking issues on Magnolia, will be whether or not we intend to rent some of the parking spaces at the pool. And again, experience factor for the summer, there were always spaces that were not used on the busiest of days. And I think that that would be another way for minimal income, but some income to the borough if we in fact rent spaces at the pool. The pool lot. Maybe 10, maybe 15. It would never infringe upon the people who are parking for pool use.
You've never been to a swim meet. That lot gets saturated during the...
But they're not there overnight.
No, not overnight.
No.
Of course not.
If you go to the 10 o'clock...
Do it at the 8 o'clock,
You have to
right.
do the hours that are either, on the current books, I guess, or...
I know, it's a fair amount of money.
I think it's all 10 to 8, or 10 to 7. I have the ordinance, but... For the days that there is a pool meet, if in fact we were to rent monthly spaces, for those 10 spaces, I don't think it would compromise anything for the pool meet if we needed to have,
I'm not so sure the hours are gonna come.
well, not only that, say it's in the morning or say it's at night.
Move the car overnight?
Yeah.
During the day?
6 a.m.
Well, a lot of the lots are.
Yeah, I don't know, I mean, it would just seem to me, for the 10 spots that might be, out of the 200-something spots that are there, that we would never really miss those 10 spots, even for a swim meet. And if it meant that we needed a special police officer or someone there on those particular times, we only have 3 meets from what I know at home, right? Well, this past year, I think there were 3. 2 one evening and 2 days. But I mean, considering that this would be monthly in income per space, monthly for the town, I don't think that those 10 spaces would, I mean, certainly, I have not been there on a day when there was a meet,
Yeah,
but
people park all over the place.
which they probably would do anyhow.
Across the street. I mean, it's...
It's just a consideration because of
Safety issue, you know.
there were complaints about cars parking on West Magnolia, right, is west? From the Maywood Healthcare Center, and that might alleviate part of it, plus providing income to the borough. So I just, something to consider. I would like to add that to the mix of municipal parking lots.
We'll keep flushing that one out. In the meantime, I think certainly have a conversation with the library board on the existing spaces.
Exactly.
Is that something standard counts? I mean, obviously, it's not like 3 more. What's the number?
I'm sorry?
What's the number of spaces?
Look in the ordinance.
Okay, we'll take a look at it.
Yeah.
And I'll bring it up.
I'll give it to you later,
Thank you.
tomorrow.
Anything else on that? Best practice. CFO.
Thank you, Mayor. Each year, the Department of Community Affairs and...
I'm sorry, Chuck, can you speak up? Thank you, sir.
You want to sit at the table?
Is it better?
Okay. Each year, the Department of Community Affairs and the Office of the State Auditor puts out a best practices questionnaire that the Chief Financial Officer is required to answer. The reason they put these out is because they want to gauge where our municipalities lie in policy that affects the state and the operations of your municipality. The unfortunate thing is they use those policies to reduce your state aid. So in order for us to maintain our level of state aid, we have to meet a certain percentage. I'm very happy to tell you that Maywood has never been in the situation where we've lost any state aid. And this year will be similar. We've met all the criteria. The questions revolve around shared services and how we treat accounting policy and what we do with training for elected officials, whether or not the audit findings are addressed, what happens with the collective bargaining agreements, and each municipality, and this is not a standard, or rather a stagnant situation, so we may do one thing in one contract bargaining unit, and then the state may say, we want you to address longevity, and we haven't gone through that process yet. It happens to be our case right now. So one of the questions that's there is, have you addressed longevity in the upcoming contract negotiations? Obviously, you're in the middle of contract negotiations, so we can't answer that question with a yes, so we have to answer it with a no, which is why we're not getting 100% of the responses as a yes. But it's really timing. And they give us some latitude to answer some of the questions with regard to what will happen in the future. Are we in the process of getting to those points? We have received 88% of the points that we needed in order to meet the requirement not to lose any state aid. And basically, it's a review of policy, as we've discussed. You've all had a chance to look at it, and I think I would bore you if I went through every single question. So unless you have some particular questions, the news is that we've met the requirements.
Mr. Mayor? Just a couple of quick questions.
Mm-hmm.
This is my first time going through this process, so bear with me.
Sure.
There were a couple of things that I saw here that, for instance, the question about light duty.
Mm-hmm.
I seem to recall we had some issues with a lack of light duty assignments for some folks, specifically in the police department, who were out of facility. Does this yes indicate that light duty is available somewhere within the borough or everywhere within the borough?
You know that in the past we have had light duty situations. My response was to the question that the borough has provided light duty. The question that they asked was not, did you provide light duty for the police department or for the DPW? It was a general question. So I felt comfortable answering it yes, that we did provide light duty. I understand that the police department's standards are different in that area, but that's not the question they asked.
Yes, it's, so at some point, somewhere, we've offered light duty to bring somebody back.
Correct.
Then we're in compliance.
Yes.
Okay.
Even though we're not contractually obligated to provide light duty.
Correct.
Another one that, I guess, I read the question and I guess I expect to know more about it, was the 5-year trend on surplus. I know we had some discussions during the budgeting process about surplus.
Councilman Bellarmine, just direct me to the numbered question so I can...
I can't, they're blacked out. It's 2 above question number 22.
Oh, I'm sorry, okay.
Yes,
Those
question
are-
number 20, but I don't know if it's...
Those are the colors that they use to...
I wish I sold coloring cartridges. Towards the middle of the questionnaire, top of the 4th page, I guess, on this double-sided packet, 5th page. Basically, it says, in preparing your annual budget, it's important for both the government body and the public to understand the concept of surplus and how it accumulates and declines over the years. I know there was some rather lengthy discussion about surplus while we were going through the budgeting process, and I don't recall ever seeing a 5-year trend of surplus.
You may recall the PowerPoint presentation that we presented to the finance subcommittee and to the, but you got that in paperwork, and that trend was part of it.
Great. Again, that was recollection more than anything else. Same thing with the grant program, question number 18. I guess I'm going backwards.
That's okay.
We're at a number sequence here for the
Right.
9 and 15 on the same page. When was the last time that we created a statement or a ledger that shows the grants that we...
Annually in our audit reports.
Okay, great. The telephone service, same thing. When was that last done? I know that you marked it as yes, that we have audited it.
Yeah.
Is that done on a regular basis?
The last time you did it was when you changed your carriers, and that just really just kind of... Yeah, they did an audit before, and I don't believe that they expect you to do an audit annually of that.
And maybe this was just more of an anecdotal discussion that I had, and I can't remember who exactly I had it with, but I seem to remember somebody suggesting that we made this effort to transition to another program because of promised savings that were never realized. So I'm wondering if we ever do bother to go back and say, okay, well, you know, the carrier told us we were going to save X by making this change. Do we ever go back and look at it and say, yes, we made that savings, we didn't make that savings?
Actually, we have not realized the savings, and we've been in contact with them for the last 7
you're on the
months.
actual work. Okay.
So-
when can we get, I mean, we should have the folks who promise us the savings come in and do this work. I wouldn't suggest anybody burn cycles.
Actually-
Improving somebody else's.
No, but what I like to do, and one of the things that I am looking into is going back to our original carrier, and there's a lot involved with doing that. I'm not satisfied. The company has changed hands 3 times.
Right.
When a gentleman actually just called me today coincidentally and left me a message, he didn't even know the name of the company he was with anymore. It took him for a minute to tell me the name, because it's not Paytech anymore, and it was Windstream, and now it's something else.
Bert, when was this switch made?
Last year, I believe. Right, Gene, or the year before?
It was the end of 2010 or 2011.
Or the beginning of, yeah.
It was,
And
it was
it's just-
within the 3-year
Yeah.
discussion. You remember how the question was
I'd like to
posed?
go back to one carrier, personally, but it's a little complicated, so
And
we're
that,
working
and that,
on
quite
it.
frankly, becomes council decision.
Procedural question, right?
Yes.
I'm just trying to get a sense for how those things are made justified. I have two more quick ones for you. There's a list, a question here about shared services agreements, presently in effect, et cetera, I seem to recall a lot of conversation with the council on this last year with some number in excess of 20 or 30 shared services agreements being in place with the borough. This suggests that we have a list of shared services agreements. Is that a part of the audit report too? Because I've never seen that list.
Well, the basic shared services you present in a separate section of the budget each year, because they're partially interlocal.
Well, there's things here that are excluded, right? You know, athletic and so forth. But
Yeah, the sharing portion of it where there's no formal, we share equipment with Paramus and that kind of thing doesn't exist in the budget.
Purchasing, cooperative pricing.
Right, but remember, cooperative purchasing includes you being a member of the Joint Insurance Fund, you being a member of the Sustainable Energy Meeting,
Okay.
you using the county or the state cooperative purchasing program.
So my question, I guess, is answered, and this is found within the budget.
Yes.
Okay. And then the last one is, the next question relating to personal use
Of vehicles?
town vehicles. So we have no policy on this.
You have a policy. Your policy doesn't agree with the IRS regulation.
So this says no, that we don't.
Yeah, right. The IRS regulation basically says, if you have personal use of a municipal vehicle, there has to be a portion of cost attributed as imputed income.
Okay, that's not what the question says. The question says, has your municipality adopted a vehicle use policy prohibiting personal use of municipal vehicles? So this question, the answer to this question...
Wait, am I reading the wrong question? I'm reading 3. Am I not, are you on
I can't tell you
the...
what it is, Chuck, it's blacked out.
I think it's the one directly under...
Directly underneath the word about shared services, has your municipality adopted a
Number
vehicle
3.
use policy prohibiting...
Personal use of municipal vehicles and providing that employees authorized to use such vehicles for commuting to and from work have a fringe benefit value added to the gross income reported on the W-2, which is the IRS regulation.
Correct.
Right, that's what I'm addressing.
Or maybe it's a two-part question. My first question is, do we have a policy prohibiting personal use of municipal vehicles?
No.
No.
We have 2 employees that are currently doing that.
So we have no, okay.
Are we following?
And then the second part is, we're not in compliance with the IRS and we're reporting that as a fringe benefit.
Right, and I have to report that as a no.
Okay.
So can we change that? I
Yeah.
think we should be following the IRS rates. I'm sorry.
One or the
Mr.
other,
Ballerini.
right? One or the other. Either it should be prohibited or we should be following the IRS regulations, correct?
You don't have to prohibit it, you just have to follow the IRS regulations.
Then how do we do that?
Exactly the way the question is phrased. You have to include a fringe benefit of imputed income on the W-2 of the person who is allowed to take the car
I
home.
guess the only question, maybe I'm simplifying, but why aren't we following that? Why aren't we including that?
It's never been the policy of the borough to do that.
Right.
We can create a policy that's against the law?
No, it's more that you've just not followed it.
Don't say you.
The borough.
I'm asking a question.
The borough has not.
Wasn't
Yeah,
that
they
just
should be doing
recently
that.
done, like in the last 5 years?
No, that IRS regulation has been in existence probably for 20 years.
Yeah, I mean, I know in my profession, I have to report a car allowance
Right.
as income.
Mhm. It's the same part of the IRS
The
regulation.
process of justifying businesses that
Correct.
taxes on it.
Correct.
So we're providing this benefit, and I know the prior borough administrator had a car that he used almost exclusively for personal use. So never paid any sort of tax on that as a fringe benefit. What's the exposure to the town for not having that policy? For not having a policy that enforces the law?
For answering no to this, yeah.
I mean, other than the effect on state aid, the fact that we're actually violating the law, what's the exposure to the town?
Well, I'm not a tax attorney,
I would mention,
but
I do little.
Well, if you only know a little, be careful.
I would mention that the IRS could conceivably impose fees and interest and make us pay the taxes that.
Well, no, I think on the taxpayer's got some explanation.
Taxpayer, right.
His tax
Well, if
return.
we're not reporting it, if we're not reporting it, then we're culpable.
We're not withholding it. We're not
We're
withholding
not
it.
withholding it.
It's not that we're not reporting it. They're not reporting it potentially. This doesn't seem like a just check the box, yes or no kind of answer. Again, Chuck, I...
Well,
no,
it is
that's-
the best, it is the best
that's-
practices, excuse me, it is for the best practice portion of it. The other is a separate issue if you want to address it. But as far as best practices, it's very clear and dry. There's a yes or a no,
Yeah,
and
it's a yes
you
or a no.
answer
Right, I
correctly.
understand that, right.
So if you choose to amend that in any way, then one, it's something that you just have to take charge of. And in the instance of this town, currently, because I do not, as borough administrator, use your vehicle, you have two people who are doing that, but they are both in a position that warrants it, and you have to address it. But they're not doing this, frivolously. There are two people who are called 24/7. No, but I just wanted to be clear.
No,
This
I
is not
appreciate
just,
that.
we're letting them
Again,
take the
but
car home. I mean, there are two people who, because of their particular positions,
For all we know, they might not even know that they're supposed to do this. It's just, I agree with Councilman Barberini. It's just,
excuse me,
when you see the words not being reported in accordance with the IRS, it almost takes you aback a little bit. That's all. I just want to make sure that we're not.
We should close the loop one way or the other.
I would agree with you.
For a policy, it should be either allows or prohibits, and then if we're going to allow it, then we properly report it to the IRS.
Exactly.
So again, your guidance is appreciated, I understand why you said no to the answer, and I certainly didn't mean to suggest it.
No, I understand.
We needed one, right? I just wanted to make sure that I understood what the answer meant.
Mhm.
Okay? Thanks, Justin.
Okay,
Sorry.
you're welcome. So just to, unless there are any other questions, go ahead.
To get back to the car issue, 2 administrators ago was the one that started with the vehicle. Then the next administrator assumed control of the vehicle as well. And the other employee, several years ago, the vehicle was not allowed to use to take home, which we had lengthy discussion on at a council meeting. And that usage was again allowed to take place. So it was in effect and then out of effect. So it's something that I agree with the commissioner that we need to address, one way, shape, or another. Either it goes with the job title, or it doesn't, or you include the regulations that we need to follow for the tax purposes.
The point is, whether or not it goes to the job title, you have to increase the income to them under the IRS regulations.
If you use the vehicle
For personal use.
for personal use or commuting,
Right.
that's the point.
So let's put that policy in place. How do we do that? Do we vote? We have an ordinance, what?
We have the DPW superintendent that uses the vehicle to go to and from for commuting
It-
purposes.
What about the fire chief and fire police?
There are provisions for emergency service workers. They're rather specific, and what I would suggest is that you have Mr. Dario take a look at the regulation and determine whether or not they fall into or out of that provision of the IRS rule.
Another factor to bear in mind is certain responsibilities. For example, the borough administrator can be viewed as 24/7 or 7/24, whatever, I got it reversed.
But she doesn't get the car. She uses her own vehicle.
Okay, I know she does. God bless her, okay? If she didn't, she'd turn his car. I'd rather drive her vehicle.
Yeah.
That's her business.
I don't think there's anything we can offer you, short of truck 17 that might be.
me on that.
No, 17, no,
I would
no.
also suggest that, I'm not sure if you're reimbursed for your vehicle when you use it on town business, okay?
No, well, other than out of town, I guess, if
Oh,
I would have gone on a
you
trip.
use the car riding around town, don't you?
I don't get reimbursed for that.
No, you don't. I mean, you probably should be, okay, because you're using it on the town.
hey, some of us are still
I know that, but listen to this. On the other hand, the borough administrator, I consider, give me 24/7? It's a 24/7 type responsibility. There are other jobs in the town that I'm not going to refer to, but that are, for example, somebody in the financial office, somebody, it's not a 24/7 responsibility. DPW, critical, okay? Public Works, 24/7 responsibility.
Right.
Police chief, 24/7. Okay, fine. I'm just making a point that you got to be, when you look at this, you got to look at it in a very, broad context of what the responsibilities are, where it should be. I had no problems at all with the borough administrator, previous borough administrator, that he had access to the car here in Maywood, okay?
There's no problem with having access to the car, it's using the car for personal
He
business.
didn't use it for personal.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
I checked his phone with the car for personal business.
All right.
If I just...
Let's refocus here for a second.
Let me just make that clear. In the IRS regulations,
Okay.
personal means as little as commuting from your house to your job. That's personal. So you got to calculate that. It doesn't mean anything else during the day necessarily.
Doesn't mean go to shop.
It doesn't mean go to shop. The minute you get in your car and you drive to work, that portion of the drive is personal and therefore taxable.
Paying for the gas.
Okay, all right.
I don't think anybody's accusing anybody of using the car to go to lunch and visit friends. I mean, but what I'm saying is...
That's the point.
Back and forth to work.
The portion
That's a tax.
back and forth is taxable.
And I think we should be reporting that.
Can't argue that.
Yeah, that's what we're saying.
Two borough administrators, the other guy that, that's a good try.
Let's get down.
Okay, well, it's something that has to be addressed.
Another best practice question along the lines of budgeting, under that same initial paragraph that Commissioner Ballerini read. Long-term plans concerning revenue, appropriations, tax levy cap, and surplus are critical towards sustaining a solid fiscal condition. Our projections calculated and discussed in sufficient detail so that the governing body understands the impact that the current year's budget may have on the future tax levy and future surplus balances for at least 2 future years' budgets. Now, my favorite word, forecasting. You may have done this with the budget committee or whatever for our knowledge of the council moving forward the rest of this year. Is that possible? We can get some information from you or some kind of review of where we're going 2 years from now with what the budget we calculated this year and along the lines of the surplus plan reference. Question number 1.
Sure, of course. As a matter of fact, the mayor, during the budget process last time, talked about going through a zero-balance budget analysis, which is going to start, and I think you're going to report that tonight, Mayor, right? Which is all part of that.
Right. Now, again, earlier, was that not all of us were in the budget committee meetings.
Right.
So is there a possibility that we can see that or you can present that or provide that for us? Is that possible?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And the workbook, even though, Eric, I know you weren't part of that meeting, the workbook and the documents that were given to the public committee all came to you.
Well,
So,
again,
yeah.
by saying yes, is this discussed with the governing body to say your surplus policy, your budget this year is going to bring us in 2014, this is what's going to happen? That's the discussion. I know it's in the workbooks, I know you do these worksheets, you prepare this with the auditor, to have...
Right, and the administrator.
And again, the bonding issue that we decide on this month or next month, how does that impact my budget 2014, 2015, our debt service? And we see that, and I think we talk about spreadsheets, pushing it out.
Sure. To be fair, I
good.
try to push all that stuff out to me.
Excellent.
So.
Yeah, but we can make it
You know what, Chuck?
more...
If I could, I'm sorry. Just, again, being the guy going through this the first time, I look at the questions that are being asked here, and I recognize the best practice in each one of these questions is suggesting. There are some things that are well beyond, my realm, specifically the financials, as far as how the CFO does his work and how the CFO interacts with the auditor. I assume those best practices are being followed, so the answer is yes. There are some more policy-based questions questions here
Yep.
that I have not been exposed to the full, breadth of what's available for me to understand the answer the way it is. That's the only reason I question it. That's really no question.
Certainly, if you, no, I understand. Certainly, if you'd like to be more specific, I mean, Mayor, it would be okay if we could, if Councilman Ballerini and I could sit and just go through it in more detail.
That's great. So,
Mr. Clary, I'll just make another point.
Yeah, we weren't at the budget committee, so.
Okay,
We can have it down both.
We have the finance liaison right here as well.
Well, just for something else. He's a part-time CFO. We have to understand it, okay? We all understand how much, it's public knowledge, how much the CFO is compensated?
We got a contract, we're going to
No, we're not going to negotiate. Do we know? Do we know, okay?
It's public information.
It's public information, okay? It's not a hell of a lot, okay? He does a heck of a job. We're asking things that really take maybe a full CFO, full-time CFO in the town. Maybe it takes financial analysis and things of that nature. All I'm saying is, we get a lot out of a guy who's doing a heck of a job, always has done a heck of a job, and we get, because of all the state coming down with all of these different requirements and mandates, it's making that job more complex month by month, okay? I'm just leaving it, keep that in mind, it's not an excuse for anything. The guy does a heck of a job. We may have, as the governing body, have to consider next year, maybe, or a couple of years from now, whatever, just approaching this in a different light. That's all I ask, because I've watched it, and I've watched it over a period of time. It's gotten so complex, more complex, not you can handle the complexity. It's just a question of time. He's a part-time CFO, okay? I think he does a hell of a job.
Or being negative.
Thank you, Councilman.
CFO and I've had our moments in the past, but,
And we're supposed to.
and we're supposed to have a good working relationship, but my main point was, we make a lot of decisions, a lot of financial decisions that affect the budget for subsequent years at this table tonight, next week.
Absolutely.
Next month.
Mhm.
And when we make those decisions, it would be nice to have that documented discussion while we're in the process of making those decisions. We have contracts coming up, we have all that, okay, we're gonna decide on a contract for next year for our unions. I'd like to see what that's gonna be projected out for 3-4 years and how that's gonna affect those budgets.
As soon as we have those details, you will.
Exactly, but those are important things, documents we need, and that's the working relationship that we have to have. And that all coincides with the best practices.
Yes.
Absolutely agree with that.
Chuck, I don't want to, I just hope the inference isn't there that this information isn't in our pack. All this information is readily available. I think it's just more that we wanted maybe an explanation
Sure.
for the people who weren't in the finance committee.
Okay.
Maybe there'd be an explanation, but I know that this information is readily available. It's in our packets. I think they're just sort of about explanation.
Well, maybe next time after we do the mayor, and you'll remember that we did a presentation, a PowerPoint presentation. Maybe we can just do the PowerPoint presentation here at the council and do it for everybody in the public and all, which kind of covers 99% of the stuff.
Because with all due respect, Chuck, Mayor, Council, Administrator, everyone here, with all due respect, Budget Committee is great, but we're elected and we have to answer to the public. So giving them the PowerPoint presentation, I need the PowerPoint presentation, because I'm the one that has to say yes or no to the budget. So I want to see those calculations, discuss them, and be a part of that presentation. I think we all need to see that.
Okay.
And to Councilman Fletcher's point, I mean, that's really why I was asking questions about this too, right? This is being submitted representative of the mayor and council, so we have an obligation. I feel like I have an obligation just to understand where this is going, not to question the effort or the accuracy.
No, not at all, and I'm certainly not taking it that, and one of the parts of the process here is my requirement to talk to you about this. Jean also has a requirement. She now has to certify to the state that we had this discussion. So it's all part of the process. The process is intended to do this.
I would just suggest going forward, before we vote on the budget, if there is a question, like you just brought up, that you should ask to see that before you vote on the budget. If that was something that, anybody not here had a question, then maybe you should ask to see that, because I know Chuck would have.
Oh, absolutely. Sure, that's one thing, and the best practice is another, so it goes hand in hand.
Okay. Not from me, sir. Just we have some closed items. Thank you all.
Okay. Are you satisfied to certify that and submit it?
Yes, it has been submitted, and I think Gene has the next step.
We'll then certify it. Great. Number 7, towing license. Earlier in the year, we talked about potentially amending the towing licensing, and they added this to the action list so that we start thinking about this before the end of the year. Whether or not there wants to be a limitation on the distance. Now it's currently 1.5 miles from Borough Hall for businesses to be able to get a towing license that to be located within 1.5 miles. Whether or not you want to alter that, or whether or not, I think, Bryson brought up at one point, limiting the total number that are available to be given out. So I simply added this to the action list to start the thought process on it. So
I'll take it on this, I'll take it on this, Mayor. Officer Worrell, our traffic officer, was the gentleman who put together the last series of recommendations around the towing licenses. I'll ask him to prepare that for the council to be in front of you.
Great.
And also, in the fee ordinance was noted that these fees are non-refundable, that it is an
Yeah,
application fee.
Correct.
So there's no further conversation with anyone about when am I getting my money back.
Correct. If they're not qualified, but they filed an application, it's an application fee, it's not a
Exactly,
license fee.
right.
Like applying to college, you're getting
All right, the last item on the action list, the DEA officer agreement. Had some discussion about this. Chief was present last meeting. Want to have some more discussions about it tonight? We can certainly do that. Coming to the end of the road, I think, on the current agreement, and whether or not we want to move forward, is something that the council's going to have to make a determination.
Mr. Mayor? My 2 cents here on it. I would rather see us send, if we're going to continue the DEA, I would rather see us send a second police officer, bring the permanent officer back, and make sure that there are some programs or plans put in place that the other officers get the benefit of the 2 years the current officers spend at the DEA. Have them come back and make it be like no big deal, or ignored or forgotten about. That kind of sticks right here on me. I want to make sure we get a benefit. Our other police officers get a benefit. Maybe there's some in-house training, in-house classes, some things that he can teach the other officers that we have and share the knowledge he's earned. Otherwise, to me, then it was a failed experiment. Yeah, I like somebody coming in, but there were other reasons why, at least for me, why I did this. But if we're just going to keep them there for another 2 years and not leave any in-house benefit, and then I see no reason to continue the contract.
My view, I'm sorry. Okay, my view is it didn't make sense in the beginning. For me, I voted no 2 years ago. It didn't make financial sense. You start doing time value analysis on money and things that went out and money that we're getting back and things that were promised in the future. When you factor it all in, I believe, I will not vote for it again. I think we can better manage the police department if he has all those people here doing what we require in our town, okay? I was very impressed the other day. I was walking along the avenue and I ran into, Officer Perotti. It's sort of, he says, well, good to see you, and I was walking along. I said, what the hell are you doing? And he says, well, I'm walking along the avenue. I'm not doing community policing. Wasn't that refreshing, okay? So somehow I always feel if you have your whole force, that you can manage. Because I never got a straight answer from the chief. Well, I can't tell you that because I can't figure it out. There's always all these variables in it that you never get a clear picture from them on, does this make financial sense? I agree with Councilwoman Oriema. If we want to go, and I wouldn't vote to do this, okay, that we send somebody else. But I just get them back in town. We need those resources. Makes it clearer for us as a governing body and hopefully for the chief to do what he has to do. So that's my feel.
No disrespect to the candidates who are in the audience here, but you sure you want to stick around?
very
Anybody else
refreshing.
down here? So, yeah,
I'll defer to the police commissioner.
Oh, no,
Go
I
ahead.
appreciate that. Not that I'm going to share anything new from a perspective standpoint, right? I appreciate, that we have the responsibility for either approving or disapproving, or denying the chief's request to extend this contract. The chief has not requested another officer to take this officer's place. The chief does not have a plan for bringing that officer back to run any kind of training programs or transitional programs.
And that's a law,
So I won't qualify whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. Everybody can form their own opinion on that, right? But what I would say is this: if we're going to look at it as I think we should, this is the person that's charged with and paid to run the police department, and it's his call on whether or not we should do this. I know he strongly feels that this is the right thing to do, is to leave the officer where he is and leave him there for another 2 years. But, my own opinion on this, and I'm starting by just restating where the police chief has laid it out for me, but my own opinion on this refers with the folks here around the table. I don't think the right thing to do at this point is to renew that contract.
Okay, so we all seem to err on the bridge.
We got three.
You want to speak first, as council president? Let me go first?
I'll go last.
Okay, you got it. Okay, Mr. Driscoll. I'm going to throw out 2 words to everybody: continuity and consistency. I think the job...
I'm co-reporter, it's fair.
I think the job... I think the job of this governing body is to either approve or disapprove of the contract. I don't think it's the council's responsibility to select the officer. That we would need to defer to the chief and his staff, is my opinion. Also, I am strongly in favor of the program. I think it's a win-win for the department and the officer involved. I think when you look at this in terms of dollars and cents and money, the cost of the program is not the cost of the officer and the overtime that it creates. The cost of the program is the new officer that we achieve because of the program. After the 2-year period is up, from paying the new officer from the DEA funds, that's the true cost of the program, that new officer to take the place of the officer that's in that program. And we've been fortunate enough to hire an officer at a lower tier pay. Now, if we discontinue the program, we're still going to pay that officer. So you're going to pay that officer to stand on Pleasant Avenue and talk to Mr. Savage, or we're going to pay that officer to be involved with the DEA and possibly bring back significant revenue to the borough. There's only a plus upside to that. I don't think the borough can lose with having the officer in that program. I would definitely support signing the agreement for another 2 years. It's my understanding in conversations with the chief as well, that after 1 year, we are allowed to select another officer to put in that program. I think they're going to verify that or talk to you about that. But I would recommend we stay consistent and we allow the officer to continue, finish and work his work that he's been involved in, so we recoup and realize the funds that are still available to us through that program. And that's my 2 cents per evening on that. I fully support the program and concur with the chief on his recommendation on the officer who's involved in that program.
And I think the chief made it clear too, if there is an emergency situation under the agreement, we can pull it back.
Absolutely.
And whether or not the definition of emergency situation is something that needs to be debated about when the time, if and when the time comes about, well, then that's something we can work on, but there are abilities to pull them back. Not very good.
Well, I can agree with Councilman Fleischman. I am in favor of extending this program. However, I do disagree that I think we need to consider what the chief feels when at the last closed session he did not have a great feeling or in taking the temperature of the officers, those that were enthusiastic about going down there, including the one officer who we were thinking about possibly developing a canine officer here, which would further benefit the town both in flexibility of police plus possible financial gain. I think that we can bring this officer back if necessary. I did ask the chief if we needed to change mid-trip, and he did tell me, as with you, that it is a possibility that after a year, we could switch, so we don't necessarily need to make a decision right this minute as to whether we bring him back or not. And I believe that regardless of when he comes back, he will bring Maywood flexibility. I think we need time to develop what to do with him when he comes back, and we do need to defer to the chief, as Councilman Bellerini said. We have him to run our force. He is the expert. I think we need to, in this case, defer strongly to what he feels.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I believe the chief made an excellent case for the reasons why to keep this officer there. One of them was that there wasn't that big of a pool to pick from people to go there. What I don't think he did was make an excellent case for staying in the program. I think had this program been operated from the beginning the way that he asked, which was to put an officer on immediately to replace him, maybe we would have seen a little more in revenue on the revenue side, where we wouldn't have spent so much on overtime. Now I know he has no way to actually quantify that, but I'm sure there is some factor in there with the officer not being here. That overtime did kick in some way, shape, or form. With that, I understand it's a wonderful program. I think we have, at 2 years with this officer there, we will reap the benefits of him being there when he comes back, which was the initial reason for doing this. The money was secondary. It was a big reason, but it was secondary. And I remember from the beginning, it was not the advisement of the CFO to do this. There was differing opinions for whatever reason. I think we're going to get the best out of this program if we bring the officer back and use his talents here in the borough at this point. There's nothing to say that we can't go back into this somewhere down the road, in a year down the road. I believe since we already have a relationship with them, maybe it'll be that much easier should we choose to put him back in there. But at this point, I think it makes sense to bring him back.
I believe you can make strong arguments on both sides.
I agree, because I don't think anybody here, I could have been swayed either way. I mean, I don't feel 70% one way and 30% the other. I think I'm like 52, 48, 51. What's the other number? 49.
49.
But, yeah, there you go.
That's 200.
Yeah, but I think that's my answer right there. I think I'm
So where are we? Well, I think that we just to piggyback on Councilman Borough here, I think, if I remember correctly, if we pull out of the program now, I think there's a good risk that we will not be allowed back or allowed back in. I think that's one risk that we should all consider.
I think I can ask the chief financial officer. It doesn't make financial sense, okay? It didn't, it doesn't now, and it's not going in the future.
Well, for example, if you end up...
Eric, excuse me just a second. I can ask the CFO to do a financial analysis of this. I mean, not right now off the top of your head, but...
Or if you could, just ballpark it.
Can I just...
Yes.
I think what Councilman Fabre is referring to was that at the time, there was a question as to whether or not I thought that we would incur substantial overtime. And that was the reason that we were in a very tight budget, if you recall. And my comment had to do with the amount of overtime that we would incur, not whether or not the program was. It wasn't mine to make a decision about the program. It was in relation to where we were with the budget.
We're concerned with the overtime of the overall department or the overtime pay for the officer involved in the program?
No, the overtime but it created overtime in the department. That's what the issue was that we were addressing at that point in time.
Shortages created a lot of overtime too. I don't think the program is directly responsible for the overtime that we incurred.
I don't think it's directly on it, but it
Well,
has part.
Certainly,
He wasn't here.
He wasn't here.
We hired a new officer a month ago, and that guy took 6 overtime shifts off the schedule.
Right.
So having the DEA officer back would have had the same net effect. So even just as again, you use the same words all the time, but as an anecdotal reference, having a new officer take 6 overtime shifts off the schedule in his first month,
72?
that's kind of what,
Well, it's right.
you know, again, it's not a direct correlation, but you can make the inference that not having an officer here creates
A certain amount of overtime, exactly.
We are at or near full staff. If we're at 21, 22 officers, 2 shy of the ordinance, I don't see how 1 officer is going to create further significant overtime next year, especially if we have, which we've been hearing about for several years, 4 or 5 officers retiring at the same time. You're bringing in officers at a much lower pay scale. You're losing the top end guys and bringing in officers at a much lower pay scale. So I'm not sure where we're really losing financially.
Well,
We have to pay the officer anyway.
Can I ask a question about that? Maybe the borough administrator, borough attorney wants to opine on this one. We've used the funds we can use to hire the replacement officer. Sending that officer back there for 2 years erases what you're saying, which is the cost of the program is the new guy.
He's covered for 2 years. He's
Right,
covered for
so
2 years.
we put that guy back out, we already had him out there for 2 years, so there was the first year or so that we had nobody there. Then we have 2 more years where we have no benefit to use the funds to hire a replacement officer.
Well-
The cost numbers do change.
Well, it goes back to the funds, and if we ever collect the funds that are outstanding. I mean, you know, there could be a windfall of $800,000, $400,000, in which case, everything would be paid for,
Or
but
zero.
that was the if bet. I mean, you can't, there's no guarantee. Everyone tells you that these cases take a very long time to settle, and until they're totally settled, we get nothing. And
But at the same time, we have to do a budget next year. You guys will have to do the budget next year, where you're gonna have caps and everything else that you're gonna have to deal with, okay? You can't write into your budget, well, this is on the come, you know, we're gonna get this, you know what I'm saying? I said it then, give me $100,000, let Chuck and I go down to Atlantic City, and we'll come back and we'll do better than we're gonna do with this program. And I still remember saying that, and I say it again.
For the record, we did not go to Atlantic City.
We're running out of time.
That's it. Initially, when we first started the program, the funds weren't in place yet to hire the new officer, so you were already pretty much short-staffed. And then you sent an officer away, so there was no officer to fill the role. But it was a program that everybody deemed...
Not everybody.
Okay, I'm sorry. Half and half.
bygones will be
Deemed
bygones.
viable, and now the funds were available to pay for 2 years. So we're after a 2-year renewal. We have an officer we just hired in August.
For 1 year,
The funds cover us the first 2 years. no?
1 year,
1 year.
1 year.
Okay.
1 year.
So we're covered
1 year.
till next August on that salary with the funds we already received. So then you're on the hook for 1 more year. That's your true cost of the program. You're in it for 2 more years. You're paying the second year's salary on the officer. You already got covered for his first year.
He's been there for 2 years, so we don't...
No, we're talking about the new,
No, you're paying
the
him
new
regardless,
officer.
whether he's a Maywood or not.
Right.
The new officer we hired August 7th is paid for his first year's salary from August 7th to next August 7th.
Mhm.
Right.
So at that time, we'd still be 1 more year left in the program. So the true cost is that second year officer salary that we
Going
hired on
forward.
August 7th.
No, we're
Oh,
going forward. But
That's the number.
we're
That's the
paying
number.
full factor. We're
Okay, I
paying, who's
understand that.
paying pension and who's paying benefits?
Okay, you'd be paying him anyway.
Well-
If he's on patrol in Memorial Park or he's on assignment, you're paying him anyway.
But we're getting him as opposed to an overtime officer.
Well, we have a second officer retired that is also eliminating overtime. So, you know what? It's a win-win. And if you get somebody else, if the council decides next year to put on another officer through the academy at step 2 or step 1, we're still ahead. As far as I don't disagree with you, you know, your point is well taken, but, you know, projecting, that's why I get into projections. Where's the chart? Where's the PowerPoint presentation on what this would cost us for the next 2 years? That's what the chief and you guys just put together. If this officer's salary's in there from now till next August, and the officer goes back to the DEA, what can we realize? What's in the pipeline? What's our true cost in 2014? That, I think, is the model we need to look at before we say this program is not working.
Well,
We know
I
this
think
question.
you have to look at what, and I think you spoke this a couple of weeks ago, this was never for the money. It was to get this guy training. I mean, that was the discussion when, I was in the audience, but that was the discussion when this was brought up, was the training, the invaluable training that he would receive as a DEA officer.
That is absolutely correct.
And the money was secondary.
Well, the money's secondary.
I mean, and there was an opportunity, even if we would have only saw $50,000 from this, he still got that invaluable training. And that's what this is all about. So now that training is to come back to Maywood. And not only will we have reaped the benefit of whatever dollars are in that pipeline, going forward we'll still collect some that are there, but we'll get the added benefit of his training and the added benefit of having an officer back in Maywood, another officer. I mean, it's win-win-win.
Well, before I voted yes for this initially, I looked at 2 other towns and another law enforcement agency, and I saw the numbers that were coming in and what they generated 3-4 years into the program. And the amount of money generated is tremendous. And again, it's a gamble, but we're paying the officer anyway. So in my eyes, it's a bonus.
May I ask a question now, fellas? Think I could get in here? Thanks.
My apologies.
Here's my question. My understanding of the money that we would get, we're restricted on its use.
Yes.
So I can't use it to pave East Hunter Avenue.
No, but we can
I
use
need
the cameras at the park, on
$600,000.
Pleasant Avenue, at the pool.
I need $600,000 to pay the East Hunter. I want $300,000 to buy our senior citizens a bus that won't break down. I can't use any of that money for that. So what good is it to me? Because
You're accepting it.
respectfully, how many gadgets does the chief need? We bought him his,
Doodad?
yeah, we
License
bought him
plate
his
reader.
truck or his SUV for if there's a, like, Martian invasion and they were, you know? And then, and really, and I have to be honest, what really concerns me is if this office comes back and the chief does not even think to have in-house training, then we basically lost the benefits we sent him there for. And I'm not comfortable that the chief is going to realize that that's what he has to do.
I'm sure with some direction.
Well, at the end of the day here, we have to come to a decision for this. The contract is up in October.
So by next week,
My
I'm ready to
position is to put it on for next week and
I'm ready to
let's
vote
vote,
now.
you know?
I'm ready to vote now.
I'm ready to vote now.
Well, we'll put it on for a resolution next meeting, which is next Thursday. Let's take our vote.
okay, resolutions.
Any further discussion?
Thank you.
Very lively debate. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Resolution 12512, resolution requesting permission for the dedication by a rider for donations, acceptance of requests and gifts for emergency services trust fund pursuant to NJSA 48:5-29. Resolution 12612, resolution requesting permission for the dedication by a rider for historical committee trust fund pursuant to NJSA 48:5-29. Resolution 12712, resolution authorizing the process to facilitate a shared service agreement between the Borough of Maywood and the Borough of Paramus for the Municipal Court of Maywood and the Borough of Maywood, Bergen County, New Jersey. Resolution 12812, resolution authorizing participation in the Bergen County ADA Cooperative Grant Construction Grant Program. Resolution 12912, resolution authorizing the purchase of a new police vehicle pursuant to state contract.
Move for adoption.
Second.
Question? Yes. With regards to resolution 127-12, and the process we have discussed many times, just a thought, I bring it up tonight to refer to the prosecutors and public defenders in the local municipal court people that have had experience with this. Is there a benefit to preserving a portion of the Maywood court system for resident-only infractions, overnight parking, property maintenance issues, anything relative to local code where a Maywood resident doesn't have to go outside the town
if that's something worthwhile for me. Oh, I'm sorry.
I don't think
you can do that. I mean, unless we maintained our own judge, administrator, and quite frankly, what we wind up doing is probably spending more money than we are actually now by doing that. Payment of tickets, most of them can be paid online. If you're pleading guilty, obviously. Pleading not guilty, you want your day in court. If this goes through, your day in court's going to be in grounds. Thank you. Anybody else? All right. Roll call.
Savage.
Yes.
Fleischman. I'm sorry, Jack.
Yes to all. Yes.
Fleischman.
Yes.
Oriano.
Yes.
Labray.
Yes.
Ballerini.
Yes.
Neglia.
Yes.
Ordinance, Councilwoman Eliana, you came in a little late, do you have anything to report for you made?
Yes. Surprisingly enough. I had a very interesting day today. I attended a board of directors meeting at Linebacker. And I think there's been a need for us and people in town to know more about Linebacker. It's actually an excellent housing authority. What I did learn was that they are getting down the list of people waiting for apartments. I'm not quite sure how quickly there's turnover, but when they get less than 10, and I think they've got about 40 people left on the list, when they get down to 10 or less, they are required then under HUD regulations to open the list for applications. One of the discussions had, Sal Blues, one of the board members there, was perhaps the next time the list is open for applications, they may want to place someone at the volunteer at the Maywood Library to help, especially Maywood residents who might want to apply, not apply, because there are rather stringent financial regulations that you have to prove your eligibility. And I thought that was a great idea, and the issue is I've never known what Linebacker was, how to get people on the list, and now I'm learning. The other thing is, though, what I did learn too is that Linebacker, the woman who manages Linebacker should be congratulated. I believe that it's here somewhere in my notes that for 5 years they've received an award of excellence from, I guess, HUD, and because of that, every year they go through some sort of audit, and because of that now they're relieved from some of those audit requirements for the next 3 years. I think that's excellent. I think it's excellent that she's done such high quality. And it seems that that location is only getting better, improving, and looking better, and considering, I think Linebacker is at least 20 years old. I think that's a wonderful thing. The other thing that I just wanted to bring up was recently Maywood residents have been coming up to me and asking me a couple of questions or complaints. A couple who lived on Golf Avenue asked if we could maybe discuss with the council.
We did have a conversation about that earlier.
Stop sign?
Yeah.
And I believe there were other streets though, Parkway and Grant, because some of the parents speed to Grant, pick up their children, not really being aware. So we either need stop signs or perhaps speed bumps in that area, and if that's doable, to just slow people down, because it's not just their children who are leaving school. Another resident on Oak Avenue complained about the commuter parking, and I think we need to look at those ordinances again and maybe revisit them for several reasons, and maybe have, I think there are different rules on both sides of the State Street. I think we need to be consistent on both sides and maybe make sure they're enforced. Because again, it's still my understanding that even though on my side of the State Street, I believe that commuters can't, no one can park between the hours of 7 or 8 a.m. unless they have the blue ticket, the resident ticket, that there is no one who enforces it. Who enforces that regulation. Our parking officer is not on. Police are, I believe, put under more important duties. And that's when one of the times our enforcement officers should be on. And so the discussion we had in past council was, we agreed we should have a part-time enforcement officer, but perhaps we should have a second one, so that one starts early in the morning to midday, and the other one does midday to after or till around the time when our restaurants close. And I think we need to look at that. And I think that's pretty much it for the things I've learned this week in Maywood.
We'll pass along those comments to the traffic officer in addition to the comments that we had earlier.
One other thing, I did learn again that the bus broke down, the senior citizen bus broke down again this week. And so I would like to have some direction from the council and the administrator about, I think it's going to kind of become my mission to get senior citizens a new bus, and one that's handicap accessible, because the one we have is not handicap accessible, and somehow, knowing that the disability laws have been in place for a good 30 years, I'm just stunned that we managed to buy a bus that is not handicap
We
accessible.
didn't buy the bus.
However, we got it, it's not
That's the
handicap
bus
accessible.
We didn't buy.
And it's a multi-use bus, good for summer camp and school.
We didn't buy the bus.
I would keep on your tracks to find us one.
We were given the bus, okay?
Daddy, that's a bus tour, that's the bus.
Yeah.
We were given the bus.
You can park it at the new house.
So we gotta find somebody else to give us another bus.
Yeah, don't hold your breath.
There you go.
Keep looking.
Look. Anything else?
No,
Okay. No new ordinances, any new business, old business, miscellaneous business. Before we go into closed session, we'll take a moment of silence to remember the people who have passed in Maywood this week, especially volunteers and people who have served this town. Kevin Kieferly and Dr. Matty, who's dedicated a lot of time and had his business here, and Kevin Kieferly, who also had his business here and serviced the town, both of whom were taken from here too early. And also recently one of our longest standing firefighters, Herschel, who joined the fire department in 1947 and was a member until his death within the last few weeks, as well as personal family members who have passed, who lived in Maywood. So we'll take a moment. Thank you. We have some items on for closed session.
Motion to go into close with a short recess.
Second. Here's, sorry?
Roll call.
Davich?
Yes.
Grossman?
Yes.
Oriana?
Yes.
Surratt?
Yes.
Gallerini?
Yes.
Neglia?
Be resolved by the Mayor and Council, Borough of Maywood, pursuant to provisions of the Open Public Meeting Act, the Mayor and Council meet in closed session to discuss the following subject matters. Subsection 7, dealing with pending or anticipated litigation, contract negotiations, and matters falling with attorney-client privilege. Be it further resolved that it's precisely to determine at this time the discussion conducted in said closed session can be disclosed to the public upon taking final action thereon, provided disclosure shall not violate the attorney-client privilege or constitute undue invasion of privacy. Be it further resolved that the Mayor and Council of the Borough of Maywood do not envisage a return to open session at this meeting, but reserves the right to do so.
Brief recess. Every time we do.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Yo, that's that father. Remember that video I showed you? That's the son. That was the father that got you.
Appreciate it.